It is July 1776. Philadelphia is America's largest city. 30,000 people pressed into summer heat, so thick and still that John Adams writes to his wife that he dreads the melting heats of a Philadelphia summer. The streets smell of horse dung, open drains, and the particular weight of a city that cannot quite breathe. Carts roll over cobblestone, vendors call out. Somewhere in the distance, a militia drum pulses and fades. At the center of it all stands the Pennsylvania State House, a Georgian brick building with tall windows and a cupola catching the haze. Most people passing its gates have no idea what is happening inside. And under the law of the British Crown, what is happening inside is treason. The assembly room on the ground floor is high-ceilinged and close. Tall sash windows line one wall, and when they are open, as they often are in this heat, the sounds of Philadelphia drift in freely. The tables hold papers, inkwells, quill pens, and the fine sand used to dry wet ink before it smears. The chairs are plain and straight-backed, arranged by delegation. The men filling them wear long, dark coats and waistcoats, and most of them are quietly sweating. They are not unified. Several delegations have arrived without clear instructions from their colonial governments. Others are visibly reluctant. There are empty chairs in this room, too, representing men who oppose this entirely. What every delegate understands with complete clarity is the legal weight of what they are about to do. If this rebellion fails, the men in this room face the confiscation of their property, the ruin of their families, and the very real possibility of being hanged. July 2nd, 1776. The question before the Continental Congress is not yet about the Declaration. It is about independence itself. The formal resolution, introduced weeks earlier by Virginia's Richard Henry Lee, states simply that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states. The night before the vote, a violent thunderstorm sweeps through Delaware. Through that storm, Caesar Rodney, a delegate already gravely ill, his face marked by advancing cancer, rides on horseback through the dark from his home colony to Philadelphia. He arrives the next morning, mud-splashed and exhausted, his riding cloak still damp. His vote breaks Delaware's tied delegation and delivers the colony into the yes column. In Pennsylvania, the two most prominent opponents of independence, John Dickinson and Robert Morris, simply do not appear. Their absence is not accidental, it is calculated. With them gone, the remaining Pennsylvania delegates vote 3-2 in favor. South Carolina's Edward Rutledge had opposed moving this quickly, but he looks at the room, reads the arithmetic, and makes a decision. Better to be inside this than left outside it alone. He delivers South Carolina's vote to yes. New York's delegates, lacking any instructions from their colonial government, abstain. The final count: 12 colonies in favor, 1 abstention. Afterward, John Adams writes to his wife, Abigail. He tells her that July 2nd will be the most memorable epic in the history of America, celebrated for generations with bonfires and illuminations. He is completely right about the significance of the moment. He is entirely wrong about which date history will remember. But that is a question for later. Right now, the crossing is made, and yet nothing else has changed. The British Army is one of the most powerful military forces on earth. The Continental Army is under-equipped, underpaid, and still finding its footing. The 13 colonies are politically fragile and economically strained. British naval power commands the coastlines. Loyalists, Americans who want no part of independence, exist in every colony. The vote is a declaration of intent. The war that will determine whether that intent survives has barely begun. Now the argument shifts, not to whether independence, but to what the world will be told and exactly how. Thomas Jefferson is 33 years old, tall, reserved, and precise. He has been composing a draft declaration in his rented Philadelphia lodgings since the 11th of June, working at a small portable writing desk. The Committee of Five, Jefferson, Adams, Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston, has already circulated a version to Congress. Now Congress takes it apart, line by line. Delegates argue over individual words. They debate the framing of specific grievances, the tone of accusations leveled against the king. Benjamin Franklin makes changes. Adams makes changes. Jefferson sits largely silent and watches his text revised. The most consequential cut comes when Congress removes a long passage in which Jefferson had accused King George III of imposing the transatlantic slave trade upon the colonies against their will, calling it a cruel war against human nature. The passage is politically untenable. It would fracture the already fragile Southern coalition, and every delegate in that room knows it. Jefferson later describes himself as especially disappointed by its removal, but it goes. What that erasure leaves behind is a silence that will echo for nearly a century. What remains is still radical, a public document asserting that all men are created equal, that governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed, and that these colonies are dissolving their bond with the British Crown. Close on the parchment, on crossed-out lines, on ink still drying at the edge of a quill scratch. This is what a country looks like when it is being made from language, under pressure, by exhausted men in a hot room. On the morning of July 4th, Jefferson notes the temperature at his lodgings, 68 degrees. Before the day is out, his records show he has purchased a thermometer and a pair of ladies' gloves, most likely intended for his wife. A man running ordinary errands on the day his declaration is adopted by a nation. By afternoon, the revised text of the Declaration of Independence is formally approved by the Continental Congress. This is not the signing ceremony. That great moment of gathered signatures happens mostly on August 2nd, weeks from now, when delegates affix their names to a formally prepared parchment copy. What July 4th produces is the final approval of the words and a single clear order: print it. John Dunlap, the official printer of Congress, sets type through the night in his nearby print shop. He and his assistants work in shirt sleeves in a dim room that smells of ink and oiled wood. By morning, approximately 200 single-sheet broadsides exist. They go immediately to colonial assemblies, revolutionary committees, and the commanders of the Continental Army. One copy eventually crosses the Atlantic and reaches King George III. At the top of each printed sheet, one date appears: July 4, 1776. That is the date history will fix upon. Not because it was the day of the actual vote for independence, that was 2 days earlier, but because it was the date on the paper that carried the words into the world. John Adams predicted the wrong day. The date that endured was chosen by a printer's press, not by a vote. Benjamin Franklin, 70 years old and precise in his observations, is reported to have said it plainly: "We must all hang together, or most assuredly, we shall all hang separately." Under British law, every man who has voted yes, and every man who will later sign his name to that parchment, has committed high treason against the Crown. The penalty, if the revolution fails, is death. Beyond death, the confiscation of estates, the ruin of businesses built over lifetimes, the destruction of family names, the particular severity of being made a public example by the most powerful empire in the world. These are not statues. They are lawyers, merchants, planters, and farmers. They have staked their property, their safety, and the futures of their children on a political experiment with no guaranteed outcome. A candle burns low in a darkened room. A sealed letter sits on a table. The city grows quieter as evening comes. This is what courage looks like before history arrives to tell you it was worth it. 250 years on, these 3 days can seem inevitable. The story is carved into monuments, repeated in schoolrooms, and fixed in the nation's memory as a clean, triumphant founding. But inside that assembly room, in July 1776, nothing was fixed. The vote was close and engineered. The document was edited in a sweat-soaked room with open windows and uncertain outcomes. Adams thought July 2nd would be the date history remembered. The date that lasted was printed by a man working through the night in shirt sleeves. Even the birth was improvised. The United States was not unveiled on a stage. It was argued into existence, word by word, vote by vote, in heat and fear and ink, by men who understood exactly what they were gambling and did it anyway.